Greetings and welcome to PinballHelp. Mike here. Today I'm going to do a short video on how to hack your game to add a switched electrical outlet into it for various things, like if you wanted to have a topper with some electricity to it, or you wanted to add some extra power for some kind of light feature in the game, etc. I'm going to show you how to do it where you can get an AC tap in here. So you don't necessarily have to plug into the actual circuits in the game and pull more power off of them. Now in my case, I'm working on this Stern Trident pinball machine, and I've got the game up and all of this. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding a set of computer speakers into this game. And the reason for that is because I'm modding it with a thing, and there'll be another series of videos in it of that. But basically I'm retheming the game with new rules and new audio, and I'm going to be using a special digital board that's going to be sent, the audio output's going to be sent to a set of computer speakers I'm going to mount on the top of the thing. So I need some power for these speakers. They do run on DC, but the speakers basically come with one of these wall warts, you know? So all I really need to do is add a plug for the wall wart. Now, there is a plug in most pinball machines. You'll see a service plug. There's one right there. So there's an outlet, so theoretically you could plug into that. The problem with that is an unswitched outlet. What that means is as long as the game is plugged in, there's always power going to it. And this is not something that we ideally want to use. And the reason why it's unswitched is so if a technician is working on the game, they can plug their soldering iron in there, and they can continue to work on the game without the power being on, which is safer when you need to be doing certain things with the components. So we need a switched outlet, meaning that it will only power up when the game is turned on. So we want to tap into the AC after it goes through the power switch. So this will generally work with most games. The more modern games will often have a power supply up in the back box, and it's more of a computer power supply, but you can still find a way of tapping into that. But I'm going to show you what we're going to do here, which is most of this is an 80s, late 70s, early 80s game, but it applies to a lot of other machines. So the power comes in on a switch, and the switch is right down here. We can follow the wires to that switch, and it goes into the power supply rectifier board here, and then from here on these Bally Stern games, the wires are soldered onto the back of the rectifier board, and they go to the transformer there you can see in the back. The easiest thing to do is to just tap into the transformer, because the transformer is switched. Power does not get to the transformer until it's switched on the machine. So we just have to find out what lugs are the AC power. Okay, so easiest way to do that is to check your board here, E1 and E2 coming off of the board. Now this is a more modern board that actually has push terminals in it. Normally these things would be soldered onto the back, but you can remove the board and just find E1 and E2, because that's going to be, E1 is hot and E2 is neutral, so that's going to be the AC power coming in. You could also get it off of the transformer, and I'll tell you how to do that too. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm just going to tap directly into the tap on the transformer. So in this particular architecture, the Bally Williams and the Stern games, the color codes for the wires on the taps are slightly different in some cases, but not when it comes to the main AC going in. So the main AC is typically going to be an 18 gauge red wire, that's the hot, and an 18 gauge yellow wire is the neutral. So it's surprisingly easy to get a look at this transformer and find out where we should hook it up. So let's find the red wire and the yellow wire. And there's a couple of different wires, but the ones we want are going to be on the far side, on the underside. So you can take a few nuts off of here, and this thing just lifts off. So there's your transformer, which, by the way, I've got the power off, so I'm handling it with the power off. You don't want to handle it with the power on, because it's got some pretty nasty voltages in there. So if we just turn it down right there, you can see there's our main leads going into it. There's the hot and the neutral on the bottom. So the red lead is our hot, and the yellow lead is our neutral. And you'll see that some of these taps are tied together. So I can actually create a spade plug or solder directly onto some of the connected taps. So I I could solder onto this right here for the hot, and I guess the neutral, I think it's tied to this one over here. I can check that with continuity. But what you want to do to make sure you're tapping into the right AC thing is to take your meter and put it on AC and turn the game on, and then test those taps. Be careful when you're poking around down there, because there's all kinds of voltages, but you can put some alligator clips on them and just check to make sure that there's no power, and then when you flip the switch you get 120 volts or 240 if you're over in Europe. But of course, remember, be careful with all those voltages. So we'll do that. I've already done it and checked it and verified that those are the two taps. So now what I'm going to do is I got one of these cheap extension cords from my neighborhood thrift store. These are like from the 70s. They're not ragged. You want to make sure it's in good condition, but they've got, this usually has pretty good quality copper wire in it. Nowadays everything is aluminum. So this is a good, nice, good condition old thing, and I basically cut the end of it off, and now I'm going to solder these into the two taps down there, and then I'm going to run this up into the head where I will plug the power supply for my speakers. You could do it. You could do it for lights or whatever you want. You know, it's kind of nice. So you've got this extra plug, and if you want to add some extra features, you could drill a little hole somewhere in the cabinet and run some wiring, like if you want lights underneath the game or whatever. But very easy to create this little tap. So once you turn the machine on, this gets immediately powered up, and when you turn the game off, it comes down. So it's very convenient. And of course, you could add a power strip in there. You could add whatever you want. This is what I'm going to do just because it's so simple. Now let me talk a little bit about these extension cords. You'll often see, how do you tell what's neutral and what is hot? Okay, we know that red is hot and yellow is neutral. And it's important to get them hooked up right. Even if the particular thing you're plugging in doesn't really matter, it's still kind of important. So here is an outlet, and you'll notice that one of the terminals is a little bit flared and the other one is smaller. So typically the smaller one is hot and the little flared larger one is neutral. Same thing on the plug. You can see there's a larger hole and a smaller hole. The smaller one is the hot and the larger one is neutral. If you want to hook a three-prong thing, then there's usually a ground lug that is going to the frame of the transformer, and then you would hook the ground for the wire into that, so you can have a three-prong plug. But just cut this off, strip the wires. Now, how to tell here? On these older cords, you'll see one of the wires is ribbed and one of them is smooth. The ribbed one, which is right here, is going to be the one that's neutral. Again, you can check continuity between here and here, or wherever your plug is, just to be on the safe side. And so that's it. Just fire up the old soldering iron, solder these things on, and run your plug to wherever you need it in your machine, and then when you turn the machine on, bam, you'll have power. So it's a quick little mod that you can add if you want to add some extra lighting or some cool topper or something like that. Maybe you want a subwoofer and you don't have an extra plug for the subwoofer nearby. You could run it up into the machine and plug it in here. The subwoofer will only come on, that's maybe for more modern games, but you've got your options there. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube/PinballHelp, and check me out on Instagram and Twitter and all that. And until next time, thanks for watching.